Good morning, students. I hope you all understood the previous video of Civics Lesson 1 Indian Constitution. So, before entering into the lesson, students, please note down all the points which is presented in this video. Then only you can revise and understand the continuity of the lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn the making of Indian Constitution, the salient features of Indian Constitution, the fundamental rights and duties, the directive principles of state policy, the center-state relations and the emergency provisions. In our last class, we discussed about the making of Indian Constitution, the salient features of Indian Constitution. So before entering into today's portion, we just recall our previous video. What is Constitution? The Constitution, which means the basic principles and laws of a nation, state or social group that determine the powers and duties of the government and guarantee certain rights to the people in it. So that is, the Constitution is the fundamental law of a country which reflects the fundamental principles on which the government of that country is based. So once again, Constitution is the basic principle and law of a nation, state or social group that determine the powers and duties of the government and guarantee certain rights to the people in it. Constitution is the vehicle of a nation's improvement and the framework of the distribution of powers between the various organs of the government and between the union and the states. The concept of constitution was first originated in USA. Why we need constitution for our country? Because all democratic countries have a constitution that governs them. A constitution puts down certain principles that form the basis of any kind of a state that we as citizens desire to live in. The constitution tells us the fundamental nature of our society. A country is usually made up of different communities of people who have different beliefs. So our constitution will help be in fulfilling the beliefs of different segments, that is different kinds of peoples in our country. Next, making of Indian Constitution. The Constitution of India was framed by Constituent Assembly set up under the Cabinet Mission Plan. The Assembly consists of 389 members. So that 389 members are representing provinces, that is large empires, 292 members. So next, states represents 93 members. The chief commissioner provinces represent 3 members. At last, Baluchistan. Baluchistan is nothing but the southwest part of Pakistan. The assembly held its first meeting on December 9, 1946. Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, the oldest member, was elected as the temporary president of the assembly. While the work was in progress, Dr. Sachidananda Sinha died. On December 11, 1946, after Sachidananda Sinha, Dr. Rajendra Prasad elected as its president. Similarly, both H.C. Mukherjee and V.T. Krishnamachari were elected as the vice presidents of the assembly. Next, on August 29, 1947, the assembly worked through various committees and the draft of the constitution was prepared by the drafting committee under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is recognized as the father of the Constitution of India. Next, on November 4, 1947, draft constitution submitted. Next, on November 26, 1949, the drafting work was completed. Next, on January 24, 1950, the handwritten constitution was signed. Prem Bihari Raizada was the calligrapher of the Indian Constitution. The original constitution was handwritten by him in a flowing italic style. So finally, on January 26, 1950, the constitution was legally enforced by the committee. So the time taken to prepare the final draft was 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. During the discussion, 2,473 amendments were presented. Some of them were accepted. So for making of our constitution, it takes 11 sections, 165 days of discussions and 299 members involved. So our constitution is the longest written constitution in the world. 395 articles in 22 parts and 12 schedules. It provides 6 fundamental rights to the citizens and it has a preamble capturing its spirit. So let's see what are the 12 schedules present in our constitution. The first schedule is list of states and union territories with territorial demarcation. Here schedule means like index of our book. The second schedule is provisions. Here provision means supplying something for use. It may be a money or food or anything they need. That is called provision. So in the second schedule, it contains provision of the president, governors of states, speaker and the deputy speaker of the House of the People, and the chairman and the deputy chairman of the council, so on. So the third schedule contains the form of oaths. Oaths is nothing but pledge or affirmations. The fourth schedule is provisions as to the allocation of seats in the council of the states. So in that schedule, how much seats they have to be allocated for the council of states, that should be present in fourth schedule. In fifth schedule, provisions as to the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes. So how much money they have to be allocated for scheduled tribes areas. In sixth schedule, provisions as to the administration of tribal areas. So that also need for their money or any basic needs. Next, seventh schedule. the union list, state list, and the concurrent list. So this schedule contains what are the union territories, state should be added with our country. So the 8th schedule contains a list of recognized languages. So what are the languages recognized by our constitution that should be present in the 8th schedule? In 9th schedule, provisions as to validation of certain acts and regulations. So if the money allocated for certain needs, that should have some validation. That period of time will be present in the 9th schedule. Then 10th schedule is provisions as to disqualification on ground of defection. So next, the 11th schedule is the powers, authority and responsibilities of Panchayat. Next, 12th is the power, authority and responsibility of municipalities. So already I told our constitution is the lengthiest constitution in the world. So the idea of our constitution was taken from nearly 60 countries. So some of them are Britain, Ireland, United States of America, Canada, Australia, Russia, France, Germany, South Africa and Japan. For example, our country has single citizenship. So that should be taken from Britain Constitution. Likewise, many ideas was taken from other nations. Next, salient features of Indian Constitution. It is the lengthiest of all the written constitution of the world. It has borrowed most of its provisions from the constitution of various countries that we discussed in the last slide. So it is partly rigid and partly flexible. That means half of the constitution is no one can change, but half of the constitution may be changed as per the situations of our country. It establishes a federal system of government. It establishes the parliamentary system not only at the center but also in the states. It makes India as a secular state. Here secular means a state which protects all religions equally. It provides an independent judiciary. It introduces universal adult franchise and accords the right to vote to all citizens above 18 years of age without any discrimination. It provides single citizenship. Single citizenship means some of the country which having dual citizenship, the people should get the citizenship of state as well as country. For example, if he or she get a job in other state within the country, they have to get citizenship for that state also. That country has dual citizenship, but our country has single citizenship. It makes special provisions for minorities, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, etc. So next we discussed about preamble. The term preamble refers to the introduction or preface to the constitution. It consists of the ideals, objectives and basic principles of the constitution. So like a index of our book. It contains the summary or essence of the constitution. It has great value and has been described as key to the Constitution. So the preamble to the Indian Constitution is based on the objective resolution, which was drafted by Jawaharlal Nehru, which was adopted by the Constitution Assembly on January 22, 1947. It has been amended once by the 42nd Constitution Amendment Act of 1976, which added three new words, that is socialist, secular and integrity. So this is the page which is present in our Constitution. Look this page. The preamble begins with the phrase, "We the people of India." This clearly implies that the Constitution derives its authority from the people of India. So already we know our country is democratic country. You all know about what is democracy. It is for the people, by the people and of the people. So our preamble also implies its authority. The Constitution derives its authority from the people of India. So thus we can say that the people of India are the source of our Constitution. The preamble of our Constitution states that India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Its aim is to secure all Indian citizens social, economic and political justice. The Constitution guarantees liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship to all. That is, freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship to all. It gives equality of status and of opportunity to all. So everyone has equal rights to educate or to get a job. It wants to promote fraternity among all Indians. Fraternity means brotherhood. So our Constitution promote brotherhood among all Indians. Next is about citizenship. The word citizen is derived from the Latin term civis. It means resident of a city state. So the Constitution of India provides for a single and uniform citizenship. I already told what is single citizenship for the whole of India. So our Citizenship Act comes under Article 5 to 11 under Part 2 of the Constitution, deals with the citizenship. Next is Citizenship Act of 1955. What is Citizenship Act? It provides for acquisition. Acquisition means receiving or getting something, and loss of citizenship after the commencement of the Constitution. This act has been amended so far 8 times. Originally, the Citizenship Act also provided for the Commonwealth citizenship, but this provision was repealed by the Citizenship Amendment Act 2003. Next is acquisition of citizenship. Acquisition means getting or receiving something. So how we get citizenship of country means, according to the Citizenship Act 1955, the citizenship could be acquired through any of the following methods. The first method is by birth. All persons born in India on or after January 26, 1950, that is after Republic, are treated as citizens by birth. Next is by descent. A person born outside India on or after January 26, 1950 shall be a citizen of India by descent if his father is a citizen of India at the time of his birth. Next is by registration. A person can acquire citizenship of India by registration with appropriate authority. So next is by naturalization. A foreigners can acquire Indian citizenship on application for naturalization to the government of India. So here naturalization involves a process by which the foreigner must live for an extended, that is long period in which the country he wishes to become a citizen of that country. So the qualification of naturalization is at least 18 years old and have been a permanent resident for at least 5 years. Then only he can apply citizenship for that country. The next is by incorporation of territory. In the event of a certain territory being added to the territory of India, the government of India shall specify the persons of that territory who shall be citizen of India. For example, recently Jammu and Kashmir was added to our country. So the people who lived in that Jammu and Kashmir, they get the citizenship of our country. Next is loss of citizenship. When the person lost her citizenship means the Citizenship Act of 1955 prescribes three ways of losing citizenship, whether acquired under the Act or prior to it under the Constitution by renunciation. Renunciation means voluntarily act by which a person acquiring the citizenship of another country gives up his Indian citizenship. I repeat, renunciation means voluntarily act by which a person acquiring the citizenship of another country gives up his Indian citizenship. Next is termination. Termination means it takes place by operation of law when an Indian citizen voluntarily acquires the citizenship of another country, he automatically ceases to be an Indian citizenship. I repeat, it takes place by operation of law when an Indian citizen voluntarily acquires the citizenship of another country, he automatically ceases to be an Indian citizen. That is called termination. So it can be terminated if a person acquires the citizenship of some other country. Next is deprivation, which means false or fraud representation. The central government can deprive a naturalized citizen if it is satisfied that the citizenship was acquired by fraud, false representation, or concealment of material facts, or indulges in trade with enemy countries, or if the person has been sentenced to imprisonment for a period of 2 years. So based on this three act, a person will lose their citizenship. That is renunciation, termination and deprivation. The next topic is fundamental rights. The fundamental rights are enshrined in Part 3 of the Constitution from Articles 12 to 35. Originally, the Constitution provided for 7 fundamental rights. At present, there are only 6 fundamental rights. While fundamental rights are available to all persons, certain rights are available only to Indian citizens. So the 6 fundamental rights are right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies. So under the fundamental right to equality. It contains Article 14 to 18. In the Article 14, it has equality before law. Article 15 contains prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Article 16 is equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. So everyone has equal rights to get a job in government. Article 17 contains abolition of untouchability. Article 18 is abolition of titles except military and academic. The next is fundamental right to freedom. It contains Article 19 to 22. In the Article 19, it has freedom of speech and expression, assembly, association, movement, resident and profession. Next, Article 20 is protection in respect of conviction for offences. Article 21 is protection of life and personal liberty. Article 21A is right to elementary education. Article 22 is protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. So under this fundamental right, everyone has freedom of speech, expression, assembly, and also respect of convention, personal liberty to get an elementary education, and against arrest or detention of certain cases. The next is right against exploitation. Article 23, prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. Article 24, prohibition of employment of children in factories, etc. Under this articles, child labor should be punishable. Next is right to religion. Freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. So already we know our country is a secular country. So based on this act, everyone has rights to follow any religion. Next is cultural and educational rights. It contains Article 29, that is protection of language, script and culture of minorities. So we have that rights to select our language. Then Article 30, rights of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. So in previous ages, only the high status people have the rights to educate. Now everyone can educate as they need. The last one is right to constitutional remedies. Under this Article 32, it allows individual to seek redressal for the violation of their fundamental rights. So we discussed detailed about right to constitutional remedies under Article 32. So a right is an order or comment issued by a court in writing under its seal. It is in the nature of a command or prohibition from performing certain acts that are specified in the order of the court. Both the Supreme Court and the High Courts are empowered to issue 5 kinds of writs. They are habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari, quo warranto. Let's see one by one. First, habeas corpus. It is for safeguard people from illegal arrest, which means habeas corpus means to produce the body is a court order demanding that a public official, such as a warden, deliver an imprisoned individual to the court and show a valid reason for that person's detention. I repeat, Habeas corpus means to produce the body is a court order demanding that a public official, that is, such as warden, deliver an imprisoned individual to the court and show a valid reason for that person detention. Next writ is mandamus. It protects the petitioner who requires legal help to get his work done by respective public authorities. The term mandamus means we command. This writ issued by the court to the inferior court, public official, public body, corporation and also government. This writs direct them to perform the duties which they have refused to perform. I repeat, this writ issued by the court to the inferior court, public official, public body, corporation and also government. This writ direct them to perform the duties which they have refused to perform. The next writ is prohibition. It prohibits a subordinate court from acting beyond its jurisdiction. Prohibition means to stop and it is popularly known as stay order. It is issued by a superior court to lower court. I repeat, prohibition means to stop and it is popularly known as stay order. It is issued by a superior court to lower court. The next writ is certiorari. It quashes an order issued by a subordinate court by overstepping its jurisdiction. Certiorari means to be certified. This is a request that the Supreme Court order a lower court to send up the record of the case for review. I repeat, this is a request that the Supreme Court order a lower court to send up the record of the case for review. The last writ is quo warranto. It prevents usurpation of public office through illegal manner. Quo warranto means under what authorities. This kind of writ is issued to ensure that the person holding a public office to which he is not entitled. It is used to prevent illegal assumption of any public office. I repeat, this kind of writ is issued to ensure that the person holding a public office to which he is not entitled. It is used to prevent illegal assumption of any public office. Next, suspension of fundamental rights. When the President makes a proclamation of emergency under Article 352, the freedoms guaranteed under Article 19 are automatically suspended. The President can suspend other fundamental rights through specific order. These orders must be approved by the Parliament, but he cannot. That means the President cannot suspend the freedom given under Articles 20 and 21, which is protection in respect of conviction for offences and protection of life and personal liberty respectively. So students, today class is over. Here I gave some evaluation questions. Try to answer this question. First is, dash rights are mentioned in Article 32. Next, what is writ? Next, what is right to constitutional remedies when the person lost his citizenship, Next is differentiate fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy. Okay, students, now I hope you all clearly understood from the beginning of this lesson. For your convenience only, I repeat once again. In next class, we will see about directive principles of state policy, fundamental duties, and emergency provisions, and amendment of the Constitution. Thank you, students.